What is going on, guys? Joey here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about overshooting, going off program, not sticking with the whatever you have on the sheet. When should you be doing this? Is it appropriate to be doing this? What are the bad things that are going to happen if you do this? Are any bad things even going to happen if you do this? And I think if we explore this topic and we kind of delve a little deeper into your neuroticism or your fears or your worries, then it can help you get closer to what I believe is the mind state that's going to help you go really far in the sport. And that's just understanding that oftentimes the thing that you're afraid of doing, or that you are just the emotional sort of like stress that you put on yourself to avoid something from happening, it actually really isn't that bad if it does happen. And there are always things that you can do to put yourself from wherever you are, from whatever situation you're in. You can always do something the next day, the next week, the next month, at home, right after the session, to put yourself in a better position. You can put yourself in a position where you can benefit from that moment, or you can exceed when you thought that something is botched. And I think if I could just give you guys an example, give you guys sort of a mindset that is, I think, like rather like destructive. And that is, if you don't hit the number that's on like week 4, right? And we could do a whole video on week 4, but I think lifters, they look at their sheet and they see, the progressions, and they see this number at the end of the block and they think, I have to hit this number or this entire block was a failure. That is not true at all. And for a long time, nobody spoke about week 4. People, I believe there's always been some sort of like progression in powerlifting, whether it be 20, 30 years ago and then to what we have today. But I think what I really started to realize and understand when it came to like just training the body to get stronger and be where we want to be, is that it doesn't have to be so rigid. It doesn't have to be like, if you don't hit this number on this day, then you wasted everything. Example, let's say I think you should kind of start out, and if you guys are familiar with my workshops, I often start off with like setting up your training split. I call it setting the split, right? So you're gonna set up your training days. You're gonna have all your training, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? You're training your body to get used to training easy on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then that easy becomes medium, and then medium becomes medium hard, and then it becomes hard, right? So you're setting your split, you're getting used to that, and then you're doing enough work to where you can grow from the work that you're doing, but you can also leave some on the table so you can actually recover, and that you're not like burying yourself. Like if you go in on a Monday, you hit some squats, you got squats on Friday, you're still not recovered from Monday. You're not going to be fully recovered, but you could be recovered enough to be productive Friday. That's kind of what you want. There should be sort of a dichotomy between the two. You want to have a day that's stronger than the other. Sometimes you can control it, but sometimes the end of the week ends up being stronger. For example, let's say you do your Monday and then you go Friday to a gym where your homies are at and you want to like show off, or you're getting hyped up and everybody's going crazy, and then you like hit a PR. You're probably going to be cooked a little bit on Monday, so you're going to either keep that pattern where Mondays are down and Fridays are up, or you're going to take it easy on Monday, take it easy on Friday, and then get back to what you're supposed to be doing. But the point is, everything I just explained is an example of how you can be flexible with it. It doesn't have to lead up to a specific thing. So you start out easy. Week 2 is a little harder. Week 3 is a little harder. Week 4 is a little harder. That could be increasing weight. That could be adding sets. That could be, whatever you're doing to make it more difficult, slowly kind of training the body to tolerate more, training the body to get used to heavier loads. And then once you do that for a little bit, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, whatever. You throw in your little deload, and then, maybe you are setting up in another, maybe you're running the same thing again, but you're trying to do it with higher numbers, and you don't go into the higher rep ranges, you're just staying with like a moderate amount of work, and you're always sort of like building on that. You could do that too, and you could just keep running that. And I think, I mean, everything works. Work is work. And, I think that when you do that, if it is more uniform like that, it is more similar, where your maybe weeks 1 through 4 are like you're kind of doing like similar stuff and you're not really changing too much from block to block. You may start to understand that, well, there's always next block. But I think when things are consistent like that, you can really start to notice patterns. You can notice patterns about yourself and how you're training. I like to spread this out over the course of 8 to 12 weeks, because then I'm seeing like a little bit more ends of the spectrum. I can work with different rep ranges, and I don't have to be so stuck in this sort of like mid zone of like recovery, which is fine. It's like okay to do that. Like I said, everything can work. Literally anything can work. But I think that if you're training that way, then you may understand like, okay, like I botched this week 4 or whatever, but I had a good week 2, 3. Why didn't I have a good week 4? And then you can start to find out what, you and your coach or whoever, you guys are just looking at everything, trying to find out, where did we go wrong? What did I do on this day or before this day or the week before or whatever that led to the result that we got? If you get a good result, you keep hitting it. You just keep hitting it. And you keep replicating that, and then you get better at it, and then you sort of have like, this is where we need to be to progress the way that we want. And then if we get away from that, like you imagine like you're on a road and you might veer to the left or veer to the right, then you got to kind of, have that second eye there, or do it yourself, or whatever you got to do, make some notes and get yourself back on track so that you can keep going forward. And I think that is more important than like your existence as a lifter being defined by what you do in like, on your like week 4 or whatever. I have also had instances in the past, many instances in the past, where, I would structure the volume work that I have the lifter doing as like increasing, like you call it wave loading, right? I don't like those terms, because you're boxing in something that can be very malleable, and oftentimes I call audibles and I change things. You're boxing that into like sort of a defined term, when in reality I feel like being like adaptive and flexible is probably the best way to go about things. But even if my volume work is steadily increasing, it's almost like if you're at physical therapy and the first thing you're going to do is, maybe you're doing like 2 sets of 10 with body weight, and you're like rehabbing your knee, and then you go to 3 sets of 10 with body weight, and then you go to 2 sets of 10 with weight, and then you go to 3 sets of 10 with weight, and then you slowly add weight over time. You're just slowly increasing that difficulty, and that's fine, and that's happening. But let's say the lifter throughout that is gonna feel really good, and then you might have a range on paper, and I can think of it. I don't want to drop names, but like I can think of a lifter right now who's really, really good about his ranges, followed the training, didn't, go off plan or anything like that. Did that for like 12 to 16 weeks, and then had amassed to like so much strength, but didn't really like get to display that because he's just been in the trenches. And then before the transition to maybe meet prep or a heavier block or whatever, he noticed like, okay, I'm feeling really, really good. I feel like I can hit like some crazy numbers, like even way more than what's on the sheet. That's totally fine, as long as like there's communication and you guys like plan that. You could always deload from it. But I think it's a good example of like, you can go off program in that instance, because when the program was made before, yes, there are going to be times like me and Russ at Sheffield, for example, where like everything we planned and everything that we did was like all the top end ranges, right? Everything worked out. I have been working with him for 8 years. After 8 years, you could expect something like that, where you just know the coach knows the lifter knows himself. They've done the process so many times to where they could get it really, really, really sharp. But yes, if the lifter feels like, okay, and I had one of a different lifter, a girl that I'm thinking of, she looked at the sheet and she was like, I feel like these are going to be easy. And then we got to like week 3, I believe, and then it started to get tough, right? And that's why, pre-planning and having ranges is good, but I think teaching good habits, how to react to the signals that your body's giving you, and then always having a plan on how you're going to stay on that course. I think that is, this is probably like one of the most valuable videos I made in a bit, because that type of stuff is really what you're doing. And then, the coach is also just like finding tiny little pieces that they can edge 0.5% here, 0.5% there, 1% there, 2% there. And you add all those things together, and that's how you get those like big gaps. And, you guys got to understand that, especially you younger lifters, if, like I tell my girls, right, if they're benching like 125 pounds that are younger or new to powerlifting, they're benching 125 pounds. Some of them are benching like 300 something, so they got to be careful. But if you're benching like that light and you overshoot it a little bit, you're not going to get hurt. You're probably not going to get hurt. It's like, I don't know if I've ever seen it. Maybe a little tiny strain 5 years ago, but it's like, it's so rare. The risk is extremely low. And it's like, okay, in that specific situation, you have good form, everything's good to go. They're staying controlled, they're grinding the weight, and then they get stuck and they just come down, and then they have safeties and it's all good and nobody gets hurt. There's no problems. Their body's going to recover from it in like 20 hours, right? And they're going to be totally fine. Now, if it's like Jesus hitting a max squat and he squats like a RPE 10,000 third attempt, that could take 2 to 3 weeks to like fully be healed from that. Everybody's different, and these are just all things that, regardless of what the result is, good result, bad result, mediocre result, whatever, there's always a way to improve from that point. So it doesn't have to be the end of the world if something doesn't work out. And I think if people go into each training is also like information. It's also, you're gaining data about yourself. You're getting data about the split, the shoes that you're wearing, how you're doing things, how do things go when you set them. And if you like that, if it's giving you what you want, you can go from there. So it's one of those things that I don't really know where it comes from, this like desire to be perfect, or this desire to be like, if things don't work out. Another thing that people have to understand too is like, humans are like animals, and we have hormones, and we have stress, and we have like all kinds of like random things that could happen. I would say it's possible that in a year that happens like a few times, like 2 or 3 or 4 times, whatever. Girls have to deal with stuff once a month, and that could also be a factor. And the meet might time up really bad for like their weight cut, and then have to do a harder weight cut. And it's like all these different things. So you got to also understand that like getting upset over things that you can't control. If it's something you can't control, it should, I still to this day have this habit where if I make a mistake with something, I used to play cards a lot. If I made a mistake playing cards, it would really bother me. It would like, I had a better outcome and I made the mistake in that moment. I learned that what I should have done better. And I've always had that thing about me where if something doesn't go how I want, I can always like, okay, why not? I'm very quick to like figure that out. But it stings in the moment, and then I want to practice and I want to do it better next time. And having that sort of like it's not a fear of making the mistake. I'm always trying to do the right thing. But if I do make the mistake, it naturally is going to eat at me. It's going to bother me. It's going to make me, not like self-deprecation, but it's going to make me like, you messed up, you need to be better, let's work on it type of thing. And that's it. And I have lifters, like I had a lifter recently, hit a good last warm-up and then overshoot it and miss. And they did a crazy big jump. Like they were just, it all goes with the mind. You're confident, so you're going to jump big number, PR, right? It wasn't even that bad of a miss. It was literally just flew at lockout and then didn't really try that hard and just kind of put it down when it got tough to lock out. Easy thing to work with, easy thing to fix. It's really not the end of the world. Then we go back and we say, hey, what was your last warm-up? Wow, that looked really good. Okay, so your jump was too big. You jumped 50 pounds. You should have jumped 20 or 25. You know what I mean? It's a learning thing. And then you keep hitting that home. You keep hitting that home. You have that back and forth with your coach. And then after like 3 years, your minds are the same. And then when it comes to training, you know what to expect. I had a lifter tell me, shout out Wheeze. I had a lifter tell me, and it's not just Wheeze, it's like all my lifters that have been with me for a minute. When they repeat the lesson to me that I've like hammered home, that really just makes me feel like we're getting somewhere, because it's like he had a, you know, he's doing his business stuff, travel, all these crazy variables, tons of steps. All the variables are messed up, right? Down weight, cutting weight, losing weight, whatever. Does all that and then goes, I know why my bench was off today. If I get upset, this was the key. He said, if I get upset when I literally know why and I can do things better to make it better, like that's insanity. And that is like verbatim what I've said, you know, many times. So that was really nice to hear that. And that is, it's like, I didn't even need to say it. He just knew it. He got it because we had been doing it for so long. And that's, you know, there's a lot of instances of that. And I think one thing that I really just feel good about is knowing that when lifters get into tough situations in the gym, that they know how to address those moments. They know how to say, okay, you know, this variable is off. I overshot here. I'm a little taxed today. Let me, you know, maybe that percent drop is 8%. Let me go 18%. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Maybe it's 15%. Maybe they have to call it for whatever reason. But being able to just be flexible, understand that your program is a guide. Like if you get base macros, right, when you're dieting, it could work for you, but you probably gonna have to change it like soon, like after a couple months, couple weeks, whatever. Maybe it's wrong out the gate. You're just gaining weight crazy, right? So it's, everything is like very fixable. You know, obviously missing opportunities sucks, and that's like that's what we try to not let happen. But if it's like off season and you have plenty of time, then there's nothing to worry about. You're literally going to be better from that bad experience if you can break that habit, you know, hit that point home and do what you need to do. So that being said, yeah, I just wanted to come on here and speak to you guys, show my face for once. Need to take care of it. Sorry about the shirt that just came out the dryer, but you know, we got a tough schedule here, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, happy birthday, Big Body, February 26th. Appreciate you. Posted about you on IG. Everyone go say happy birthday to Big Body. And what else? Everyone that came to the workshop, I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are able to take away something from it. I really enjoy doing those. And, you know, I know the price was a little up this last one. We had a lot of people inquire, but that price kind of like keeps it down. I'm going to lower it a little bit because I want to get just a tad more people next time. And it really just depends on, you know, it's just kind of like a buffer, because if I just did like a free one, then there's like 200 people in there, and I can't, obviously Discord I think can only take so many if I'm showing camera and stuff like that. So anyway, that was fun. What do we got? Nationals 5 weeks. Boys are looking good. Girls are looking good. Yep, and then we begin the gauntlet. Start with Nats, start with Worlds, throw in the World Games. We got 2 Sheffields next year. 2. It's going to be good. All right, guys. See you in the next one. Peace.